News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Don't miss Deadline Live with Jack Blood. He doesn't just cover the news, he uncovers the news. Weekday afternoons, 3 to 5 p.m. Central, only on American Freedom Radio.
Thank you very much. We are still in the building. Deadline Live, Jack Blood with you. Either that or I do a great Jack Blood impersonation. You have to admit, I've got it down. AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We're live this Friday, January 22nd, in the year 2010. Our next guest has been on the program many times. In fact, when I was over on the other network, he'd sit in for me and host this show and did a fantastic job doing it. Probably one of the most controversial guys that ever did that here with us. His name is Mark Dice. His activities have been covered by national media outlets. His focus is primarily on political activism, culture jamming, boycotts, and pop culture criticism. He's called for the Georgia Guidestones to be removed from public property, protested Jessica Simpson's music videos, called for a boycott of VeriChip, called for the Duke University Blue Devils to change their name from the Blue Devils. That's really prevalent in sports, isn't it? It's shocking. Shocking it is. Called for rapper 50 Cent to stop wearing a cross. He's also claimed Scientology is a satanic cult. That we can debate. All right, that's fine, because I'm not a Scientologist. That works for me. He's launched boycotts against Starbucks. He has now come out to urge his supporters to disrupt the premiere of Angels and Demons, because Dan Brown spins it to make everybody think the Illuminati is a conspiracy theory rather than the real thing. They really do exist. Michael Reagan has attacked him. Mark Dice, just such a long resume, it's hard to even put it into words as I try to introduce my good friend. But I will say this, as I mentioned earlier, I believe he was the one that started a lot of street activism, got very creative, and through that, he got 9/11 Truth broadcast on network television on The View with Rosie O'Donnell and Joy Behar. Great job on that, Mark. Mark, been a long time. What are you up to?
Hey, it's been too long, man. I'm just doing my thing, you know. When you chain all of my, I guess you call them successes together, it seems
amazing.
Somewhat impressive, but it's few and far between that I'll bypass the media gatekeepers and, you know, get some good information brought out into the mainstream, which is, you know, part of what I do with my pop culture criticism. People always email me and tell me, oh, there's bigger issues than this, but they don't understand when I go and criticize someone like 50 Cent or Jessica Simpson, people are going to look into who I am and then find the rabbit hole, and that's the larger picture of what it is that I'm doing. I believe in what I'm saying about these people. It's just that there is a bigger picture, and that's the point. So, you know, please don't email me and tell me there's bigger things going on when I do these things.
Oh, whatever. I mean, not everyone's going to agree. You're going to get bad emails, especially when you thrust yourself into the public spotlight. But you are really an expert at getting attention for causes. You know, instead of every day going on internet chat rooms and this kind of thing and criticizing most of the movement, which a lot of people seem to do, you sit and plan out your action and then attack, and the thing just blows up big worldwide. And you know, I think people should take a lesson from that.
Well, thanks, man. It's funny because some people think, I work for the Illuminati because I'm on the mainstream news, quote, all the time. And it's just incredible because you're right. Instead of me sitting and, you know, arguing back and forth in a forum, like when I appeared on ABC Los Angeles talking about the Dan Brown Angels and Demons premiere and urging people to disrupt the premiere from in the theaters. And, I mean, all I did is just email ABC News Los Angeles and about, 50 other TV stations with what it was that we were planning, and then it just so happened that one of them emailed me back and wanted me to appear on the show. And so, I just do my thing, and some of it's successful. The forums are a great place to learn and to educate others, and, if you don't have the time to look something up, it's a fantastic resource. I don't want to denigrate the forums. But yeah, I mean, if we can.
No. Go ahead, denigrate away. Let's start with JackBloodForum.com. You've been over there. That's easy to denigrate, but we have a lot of hardcore truth seekers and tough guys in there. That's what I like. I'm surrounded by these people. They don't worship me. They don't. You know what I mean? It's not I'm not a cult of personality. We're all friends, and they're tough as nails, Mark. And when there's a problem, they're not too busy to roll up their sleeves and get to the heart of the matter. And if we're getting attacked, they're right there with me on the front lines to fend off that attack. And we have been attacked, as you have, over the years many times.
Well, forums are great, too, because then instead of you spending hours and hours looking up some information, I mean, you just kind of start it, and then as long as everybody stays on topic, everybody can contribute, so then you can go down that thread, and you can, cram hours worth of research into just, 30 minutes, by following that thread. So I think that's fantastic. I've been pretty lucky. I studied media, as you know, maybe many people know that I have a bachelor's degree in communications, so I studied mass media in college, and that's kind of how I know how they work, and that's really what culture jamming is. It's using that system against itself. So,
well, you know what's cool about that is that, you have that background, and when you woke up, you took that with you into the movement to spread the message for the cause. And that was the same for me. I get a lot of calls, people don't like the show, and I should quit, and I'm an amateur. And, I was running 50,000-watt stations when I woke up. I was in radio. What am I going to go do? Shine shoes against the New World Order? Obviously, I'm going to use whatever knowledge and talents I have, which, it's worked out pretty good for us for 10 years. To spread the message. And I love it when people take what they do best and then find a way to use that against the New World Order. And so you're really bringing out the best of your talents, which I think you do. So you're a good inspiration for that.
And I think it shows, too, in my videos, and especially the recent petition videos, that, if I was a scumbag, I could manipulate the sheeple for my own benefit, but I'm trying to use this to educate them. And I know that sometimes I come across a little arrogant in some of my videos, and people criticize that I should be educating them. But that's the point of the video, is that when people see these videos and maybe they're not aware of such issues, maybe it's a mirror for them to start thinking about what are they focusing on in life, what's important to them. So if they feel insulted, some of the viewers, I mean, your audience is obviously educated, but some of the just random people that happen to find the videos on YouTube, if they feel insulted, that's not really the point. The point is sort of like punishing them or yelling at them. I'm like yelling at a small child for doing something dumb, hoping that they correct their behavior.
Well, and what's funny is you look at guys like me and you, Mark, and if we're working for the government or whatever, or we're sellouts, we sure aren't very good at it, are we? I mean, look at my bank account and look at Mark's, and then you'll find out what we've been doing with all of this exposure and media attention, using it for the right things. We certainly never got paid, Mark.
Yeah, if I'm on the payroll, for the Jews or the Jesuits or whatever, they must be sending the money to the wrong address, because I haven't been getting it.
Well, there you go, Mark Dice. Mark, you got this great video, and I never got a chance to play it on the air. It's 9 minutes long, but I want to play. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this created a big controversy. It includes Glenn Geck, as we call him, and this is where you went out to with a petition, a phony petition. And you wanted to get just people on the street to sign this to increase inflation 100%, to cause hyperinflation. That is, print as much money as you possibly can so we can all have money and spend our way out of debt. And I want to get your comments, but a lot of people did it. They really did. Let me just play a little bit of this so people can get it. Here it is.
Inflation 100% per year for the next 5 years. And I'm going to see if I can get anybody to sign it, because most people have no idea what inflation is, or whether it's good or bad, or, who the vice president is. So let's see if we can get people to sign the petition to increase inflation. You sign our petition? We're Citizens for Higher Inflation. We just want to petition the Federal Reserve to increase the inflation rate to about maybe 100%.
You've got to be kidding. You just sign your name and that's it?
Yeah, we're just submitting the signatures.
You can't you can't just take a whole bunch of signatures.
No, we're not. That's why you got to put your birthday
She signs it anyway.
and sign it.
I see. Okay.
We're doing a good thing for the economy.
All right.
We'll get out of this recession sooner or later.
Okay, good for you.
Thanks.
Good for you.
get some more signatures here. Citizens for Higher Inflation. Thanks. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
We signed a petition for
I was calling you over there
higher inflation.
Yo, what's up?
Recession with.
You look cool. I'll sign it.
You're up 0 and.
Yeah. We'll get the Federal Reserve.
You guys look like they're on smack, Mark.
Inflation from like 3 to 5% to about 100%, and then an extra 100% for the next 5 years. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem, dude.
You got a light on you?
No, I don't.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Got any dope?
We'll get that Federal Reserve to start printing more money. It's the last thing we do. Awesome.
Oh, Mark, I'd love to play the whole thing. It's up there with some of the Penn and Teller stunts we've seen in the past against environmentalists.
Well, you know what's funny? People think that I just spent all day doing that, and maybe 10% of the people signed it, and I edited out the rest. Honestly, that video took less than 30 minutes to shoot, and I would say 90% of the people we approached signed it, and I even included 2 of the people in there in that video that didn't sign it.
No, the older guys that you met at the coffee shop, they're like, get the hell out of here. You're stupid.
Oh, yeah.
This is insane. No, I'm not signing it. This is the problem. They knew all about it.
And there was one girl in there. I had a very lengthy conversation with her. She was pretty young, probably early 20s, and she seemed to think that it was a bad idea, and then I just convinced her otherwise, and people said, oh, you should have just told her she was correct. What I was doing is just showing the point that if I can sit there and convince her to change her mind when she knew to sign it was wrong, just from blatantly lying to her, what is it these politicians are doing to Americans?
With billions of dollars to spend on expensive propaganda PR packages.
Yeah, you get a slick Sean Hannity to just keep repeating the same propaganda that's counter to reality, and then he's going to brainwash people. And so I just demonstrated how that works, that somebody just through a slick salesperson can have their mind changed.
Okay, but we're not going to – Sean Hannity's good now, Mark. We're not going to stand for any Sean Hannity bashing on the program today. Well, speaking of Sean Hannity, this led to Glenn Geck, as we call him. I couldn't find a better name for him, so we've just jumbled up the letters. Yo, G, Glenn Beck, the leader of the New Patriot Truth movement out there, leader of 912, he thought that this was a great story. Then he found out that it was you doing it, and he didn't air it. What happened?
I was actually, ironically, listening to him. I listen to him sometimes on my way to work, and I was shocked to hear that he's like, coming up tonight at 5 o'clock on the television show. He was talking about this. I was listening to the radio show in the morning, and he said, he's like, you're not going to believe it. Did somebody get people to sign a petition to increase inflation and cause hyperinflation? He's like, you're going to see the video tonight at 5. And I was like, this is amazing. I called some friends of mine. I said, hey, can you DVR this? And, let me, I'm going to see this and post it on YouTube. And then magically, it never aired. And then later on in the afternoon in his show or in the morning, I continued to listen to it at work. And then he starts joking about the Illuminati and the Bilderberg Group, because what he did is him or his producers obviously went to my YouTube channel or to research who I was. And then they saw that I had a book out about the Illuminati. Yeah. And, one of my other
And you're
phone
connected
calls,
to Rosie O'Donnell and Joy Bear and these other people. Yeah.
Yeah, so then he realized that I wasn't just kind of your typical, guy. And so then they, of course, didn't show the video because they didn't want to promote me. So it just goes to show his gatekeeping skills were a little loose there. They didn't do their...
Well, they did do their homework. I'm surprised that they did that much homework, to be honest with you. I thought they were just reading from a script.
Yeah, the producers are getting paid big bucks to make sure that they're not mentioning anybody.
You know what really just bugs the crap out of me? We've got all these people that are saying the same things when Glenn Geck is doing, stuff that we would agree with. And there are people going back now for 10s of 20s of years that are experts on what he's talking about, and he doesn't bring any of them on. None of these people have any appearance on this show. It's as if there was no movement at all until he came along and saved us.
Well, I love how these guys play it off like they're one of the people when Glenn Beck admittedly was under a $50 million contract just for his radio show. And this was before he really blown up once he came over to Fox. So these guys are loaded. I mean, Rush Limbaugh, $400 million contract. Sean Hannity, I think he was making $5 million a year just from his radio show alone. I mean, this is a whole other level. I mean, I'm not even talking... You make $150,000 in Southern California. That's still basically slightly above the poverty level.
Yeah,
but
right.
These guys are making millions and millions
Well,
a year.
just because they're making money doesn't automatically impeach them as opinion makers or whatever. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. They might just be very good at what they do, and they're getting compensated. I'm all for that in the free market, but I love how these – I can't tell you what went through my head. The first time I heard Lush Limbaugh talking about how the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air. I've never heard him say that before. And then all of a sudden he starts picking up the Ron Paul talking points.
Well, they have to do that to maintain some credibility. And you know, it's interesting. We kind of talk about Operation Mockingbird and things like that, and people are saying it's kind of well known that the government controls the media and this and that. But I mean, if anybody wants any real hardcore evidence of this, just look into the church hearings back in the late 1970s and look at the published report about Operation Mockingbird back in the 70s. I mean, it's just fully a congressional hearing investigating the CIA, and they uncovered and admitted that the CIA was paying at that time like $200 and some million a year. According to adjusted for today's inflation, it's $1 billion a year. They were paying off the reporters and the editors, really, to gatekeep, to kill stories, and to plant propaganda. So, I mean, there's your evidence right there. I mean, there's a congressional hearing. Oh,
man, there is so much evidence. I've done entire shows. I had David Robb on from a book called Operation Hollywood. It talks about how anytime you see a tank or a plane in a movie, the Pentagon has full approval over script content in that film. Pearl Harbor was used as a pretty good example of that. And then we've got, Anderson Vanderbilt Cooper, who's right now saving the poor kids in Haiti. Who's going to save the kids from Anderson Vanderbilt and George Clooney and these guys? But he was former CIA as well. He was Yale grad, Vanderbilt family, Vanderbilt tycoon, Gloria Vanderbilt's son. They don't ever mention that about him. His first show was called The Mole, if that wasn't a tip-off. The mainstream media, and I love how Fox calls themselves not the mainstream media, but the mainstream media is just chock full of this, and there's tons of information out there. We've talked about it quite a bit. In fact, we could talk about other forms of disinformation as well. We're with Mark Dice on the program. I want to hit that. Mark, your website is still theresistancemanifesto.com.
Yes, or markdice.com will then point you over to there. A little bit easier to spell, so markdice.com, D-I-C-E. And there's a new video petition posted there, and I'm telling you, I'm going to post another one late Sunday night or Monday morning. I'm just not going to even tell you really what it is, but it's probably even more shocking than the petition.
You've inspired me to do the same thing, actually. That looks like so much fun. I first saw Penn and Teller. They went to an environmental conference. They didn't go, but they sent people. And agree or not with a lot of things Penn and Teller say, they're kind of small L libertarians, but they had everyone at this environmental event, anti-global warming event, sign a petition to ban water, and they all signed it. Even the event organizers signed it.
But, I mean, in their defense, they use the complicated, scientific dihydrogen monoxide. Okay, so it sounds like this strange chemical. I mean, not everybody's going to know what dihydrogen monoxide is.
You're not going to look something up before you sign a petition?
But, I mean, at least, these people, I'm telling them, this is to increase inflation. We want to, inflation's at 3%. We want to bring it to 100%, more money. It's free for everyone. I mean, my latest one that posted last week was for free government life insurance, $500,000 payout from taxpayers' money every time somebody dies, and people signed it.
By the way, corporate water should be banned. Full of fluoride and the heavy metals, but that's another story. Mark Dice is with us, theresistancemanifesto.com, markdice.com. We'll come back. We'll talk about other forms of disinformation, and Mark Dice is giving away 100 free copies of his book, The Illuminati, Facts and Fiction. We'll tell you how to get that book and how to get that free book. Stay with us. We have real transparency on this show, folks. All the bills that we write, all the legislation that we write here, all the policy that we endorse, we have it up on the Internet for 3 days before you actually have to vote on it. You get to read it here. No, well, we're not politicians. I'm just a radio host. And my good friend Mark Dice is just one of the most prolific activists, truth activists that has ever been. A great inspiration. Whether you agree with everything he says or not, you got to take a look at his methods, and you got to agree that they work. MarkDice.com, theresistancemanifesto.com. Man, great to have you with me on the show. It has been a long time, and we've hung out before, and I always thought you were really good for the movement, Mark. I don't care who disagrees with me.
Thanks, man, and I've always enjoyed your show, and I really like your approach. It's fantastic. I know everybody's got a different flavor, and, we don't agree on everything. You and I don't agree on everything, but you know what? We can come together on the large portion of the issues that we do agree on, and, we can safety in numbers.
So we'll just not talk about Jesus coming back to earth for the rest of the show. We'll be okay, I think. Maybe you're right. I should be hedging my bets. I think I've already paid enough into that one that I got a free pass to, what about Haiti? I thought maybe, change the name to Lovey or Heaven instead of Hell. Get them some baseball camps over there. Make a big tourist attraction out of it instead of sending in the military. You know that the aid never did get there? This is Katrina, Mark. The massive aid that's been sent there, and by the way, if you're charging money on your credit card to help the poor Haitians, the bankers are taking a cut. Big cut, by the way. They're still waiting for the aid on the streets in Haiti, man.
I can go to Amazon.com and I can order a book and have it shipped to me next day, within 24 hours from across the country. Yet it takes days to get,
Brother, they won't even let us go down and bring food and medicine there. They won't let us.
Well, no, they want everybody to die. This is, they're just using resources that the New World Order kingpins want to use for themselves. Actually, speaking of, you're joking about Jesus returning to the earth, but we can actually talk about Benjamin Creme, the New Age guy, maybe later in the show, talking about
Well, go ahead and do that now. He's made an announcement that first tell people who Benjamin Creme is, his relationship to Maurice Strong. I think that's very important. And Michael Aquino. Well, let's put all those names in the same basket. Benjamin Creme, who is he? He came out and said Christ has just made his first television appearance. Go ahead. Maitreya.
Okay, this is a guy, he has a strong UN connections. Back in the 80s, in 82, he put full-page ads in newspapers around the country and billboards that the Christ was going to return. And now, this is one of the issues where some people have problems with me because I'm a Christian, but this is what the New Age, high-level Illuminati people talk about. Alice Bailey, Benjamin Creme, Helena Blavatsky, all talk about this sort of figure that they either call the Christ or the Maitreya, as Benjamin Creme calls it. It's going to be the leader of the New World Order. That's going to be this supernatural, powerful guy. So Benjamin Creme has these connections to Maurice Strong, to the United Nations.
Maurice Strong, who was discovered, I believe, wasn't he about 21 years old? He was discovered by David Rockefeller at the United Nations. He was a little page there. He's a billionaire now running the entire global warming scam, as I think Jesse Ventura adequately pointed out in his global warming hoax show on conspiracy theories. But this isn't just some little guy. But go ahead.
Oh, no. So this guy, Benjamin Creme, he published a book called The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom, where he talks about how this Christ figure, this Messiah, is going to come to earth and be the president of the world. And then in his book, he says, on that day, I'm quoting him here, Maitreya will mentally overshadow the whole of humanity simultaneously. All will hear his words inwardly and in their own language. This telepathic communication will reach everyone, not only those watching and listening, but hundreds and thousands across the earth. On that day, there will be no doubt that the Maitreya is the Christ, the Imam Mahdi, Maitreya Buddha, the Avatar, the world teacher. His open world mission will have begun. And so basically he's saying that this guy, like a Hitler-like figure, is going to claim to be the Messiah that all these different religions talk about.
But don't they have this guy already picked out? Doesn't he already exist, according to Benjamin Creme?
Well, according to Benjamin Creme, he made these predictions back in 82 that the guy was going to come out, and then he never publicly announced his leadership. So then he said, the time wasn't right. But just recently now, because of this bizarre spiral light in Norway in December, you remember seeing this.
We covered that extensively and got to the bottom of that, yeah.
Okay. So Benjamin Creme said that was a sign that this Messiah figure is now
the Messiah is
well.
wielding high-tech global weaponry.
Yeah, but what's interesting, so he says that this was a sign to usher in, and he has now done his first television appearance, but not as the world teacher or the head of the spiritual hierarchy, but simply as a man. And he's going to slowly work his way into everyone's hearts and minds, and then he's going to announce that he's the Messiah telepathically, right? But what's interesting, a lot of people say this is just religious mumbo-jumbo or New Age, philosophy and over-imagination. But you're familiar, I'm sure many of the listeners are familiar, there's a program called Project Bluebeam where the government thought back in the first Gulf War and even to overthrow Fidel Castro in Cuba that they have this technology where they were going to project in the sky an image of God or Allah or some messianic figure.
We've covered that extensively.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And then not only that, but I mean, there's a patent in the United States Air Force has a patent. They submitted it in 1996, and it was awarded in 2002 for a device called the radio frequency hearing effect. And the description reads that it's a method of encoding. It's just very high-tech language, but basically in normal person speak, it's a way for them to zap sounds into people's heads. You probably covered this on when you were talking about Bluebeam, that they can, through either satellites or some devices, cell towers, they can make everybody hear voices in their heads, and it sounds like
totally provable, totally true. Now there is a defense to this, but they do this, and it's a subliminal message, which we're supposed to be banned here 30, 40 years ago. Subliminal message is what it is, and this technology exists. So God is coming. This has got to be a shock to the people that think that the Reverend Sun Myung Moon or David Shaler are gods.
Just imagine if Hitler had this technology, and then he could just tell everybody at one of his rallies telepathically that, this is God. Here's my son. The Messiah is here. I mean, back then people didn't. Even today, nobody's going to imagine that that's some sort of technology. They're going to feel that they're hearing this thing. It's fascinating.
But if you look around, Mark, people seem to have been affected. Whether it is just by initiation, all the thousands of initiations you have to go through every day, or watching the opium of the masses, 500 channels of programming. People are mind control, or it's non-linguistic, neo-linguistic programming. They are hypnotized, man.
Well, and even if they're not doing this, I mean, DARPA has admitted that they were tossing around the idea, and Satanist Michael Aquino, who's been tied to the Franklin cover-up and all sorts of
Bohemian Grove,
He has a paper titled "From Psyop to Mind War," where they talked that there was technology already back in the 80s where DARPA could use radio waves to calm people or to excite them.
Google Jose Delgado. Jose Delgado. That's with a D. He did a presentation in front of Congress. I don't know if you've seen this, Mark, where he said, look, we have trained animals to do what we say using these electromagnetic weapons. That was back in the 60s.
Yeah, and Jose Delgado had electrically implanted radio frequency controllers in the brains of cats and even bulls. You can find videos of this. He had a radio-controlled cat that he could just use and make the cat run around and do whatever he wanted to. This is, 30
And what he said was to Congress is that the people can't be trusted to think for themselves. They must therefore be prodded like cattle to think in the way that we think, which is best for them. That's what he said.
It's interesting that it's sort of a tie into this radio frequency effect or microwave auditory effect. This is not the device that was shown in Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. That's something called Q sound, which is a directed sound where people next to you can't hear it, but you can hear it. That's very different from this. This would be where you couldn't tell where it was coming from, the source of it.
Targets your subconscious,
Yeah. So now Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the patsy of 9/11, was reported to have, he allegedly said that one night he was visited by Allah, the Islamic God, in his prison cell, and then he says that God told him to start cooperating, and then that would make everything easier on everybody, and this is okay. Now, if that story is true, and they didn't just waterboard him until he finally said, okay,
started hallucinating and saw Allah, really, okay.
Do worse things to him until he finally just said, okay, I'll start talking, or they could have just said, he's fully admitted it now. But even let's say that this is true, that he thought that he was visited by Allah in his prison cell. It's very, very possible. This is not a stretch of the imagination that they used the microwave auditory effect to just zap him and have some colonel sitting back there saying, Khalik, this is God. And I mean, what are you going to do? This guy is he's in a prison cell. He doesn't have that much technical prowess. I mean, he probably
somebody stole my wallet back in the 80s. He confessed to that, Mark. So
I'm sure he did. I mean, it's fascinating, this technology, and this this kind of coincides. High-level Illuminati are saying that this figure is going to come, and Christians are saying this figure is going to. But it's very, very interesting, nonetheless, to kind of look at this sort of information.
No, I love it, and we're a little bit off the beaten track here, but I'm going to put this in now. I had saved this for later, but let's go here now because you have been a big you've been major opposition against Verichip, which is so obvious. Everybody should do it. I don't know if people understand about, making this a line in the sand. We're tracking the PASS Act or the Real ID Act constantly here and watching how people are being conditioned to take this. This is just another version of it. I've got this clip here, Mark. I'd like you to listen to it. This is what's happening in Texas. School kids tagged with GPS. Big Brother gone mad, okay? They've skipped school. They've been their behavior has been a little bad. I guess the drugs aren't working. They go ahead and tag them with GPS so they can be examples for all the other kids. Let me play this clip and get your response.
Imagine your child having to carry a GPS tracking device because they have a problem staying in school. But as Raquel Duncan tells us, it sounds kind of extreme, but that may happen to some students in Port Arthur. Raquel?
Children, students who come to Justice of the Peace Tom Gillam's truancy court may find themselves enrolled in a program which just kicked off today. It's called AIM, also known as the Attendance Improvement Management Program. Now, students enrolled in AIM will be required to keep this handheld device on them for 6 weeks. It will track them from the time they go to school in the morning to the time they check in for curfew at night. A trained mentor will also coach students over the phone. Judge Gillam hopes the program will encourage students to stay in school.
Get something behind your name, that you could stand tall, that you could teach others. Don't make the mistakes that I made, and if you do, you can turn it around and correct it before it's too late.
Tune in tonight on Fox 4 First at 9. Find out what these students will face if they don't comply with the program.
That's the AIM program, and there are several people, dark-skinned Negroes with a Negro dialect. I don't think Harry Reid likes them very much, Mark. There you go. It's not that, they've been bad and now this is the consequence and we're going to give you the GPS. You've got to walk around with it 24 hours a day until you prove yourself and can get off of it. The judge there that you just heard at the end of that clip says, this is a way to help other kids by taking the GPS. And if you don't, well, you can't go to school anymore to start with, and we go on from there. Go ahead.
Well, there's also, and we knew that this is coming, your audience knows that this is coming. There's a device that was just released a few months ago called the Little Buddy, and it's available at Best Buy and other electronics stores. It's $100. And you can put this device in your child. It's marketed to have parents put it in their child's backpack.
Is it in your child or up your child?
Yeah.
It's in it? In your child? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And that's coming in another year or two. The
GPS suppository, brought to you by the federal government and the Illuminati. Go ahead.
And Verichip, they'll love it. So this Little Buddy device, they're marketing it to put it in the backpacks of children, and then parents can set up a time frame for a grid so that if the child or this device travels outside of the pre-described area, let's say a several block radius or even around the school, if the device leaves that area at a certain time that it's not designated to, then the parent will get a text message. They can just track this device on their cell phone or on the computer. And there was a news clip, I think it was even on the Fox.
This is what BlackBerries are for. You can track your children wherever they go.
Well, yeah, that's an app you could do on probably most advanced cell phones now. Where you
come on, Mark. People are carrying GPS devices with them. They are letting the powers that be monitor everything they say and taking pictures of their debauchery and putting it up on MySpace. I mean, come on. How close are we here?
Pretty close now. The woman on Fox News did of this Little Buddy device joke that she wanted to put it in the trunk of her boyfriend's car. And, there's applications now. I mean, anybody with any technical prowess.
And her boyfriend is he's a good citizen that minds all the laws, the new ones that come out every day. But this can be used against the boyfriend.
Well, what do you
in divorce cases?
What do we have to hide?
I got to jump in all the time because this is so mind-expanding. This show's like drugs, isn't it, folks? Without all the repercussions and the expense and the mess. Mark Tice joins us. You want to get one of the 100 free copies of his books, The Illuminati, Facts and Fiction? Come back with us.
What would your life be?
Sounds like, folks, right there. Good friends of ours, TSOL. A good friend of ours, Mark Dice, markdice.com, theresistancemanifesto.com. This is what a real guest sounds like, folks. We could do this every day. Kind of hard, but with your help, we'll do it. Mark Dice, thank you for joining us on the show today. Man, you know, I get around, I hunt for guests, and then I get a guy like you on, and it reminds me of what I've been missing here. You've done a great job on the show today, sir.
Well, you've had great guests, man. I mean, Kevin Trudeau. It's fantastic. I need to listen to the interview from Apocalypse, man. I saw that on
Listen to that Mancow interview, man. He let loose.
I haven't heard that yet. I've just been a little busy finishing up with some stuff. I have a new book coming out, by the way. Or it's actually out, I guess. The New World Order Facts and Fiction. It's kind of an expansion of the Illuminati facts and fiction.
Let's talk about that. You are giving away 100 free copies of the last one. You are such a prolific writer. I don't know how you have time to do this. I just update my blog, and I'm too busy. DeadlineLive.info. The Illuminati Facts and Fiction. 100 copies, free copies to people who do what? What do they got to do?
All you need to do, this is quite shameless of me, but I think it'll be very effective, and then you can get a free book out of it. All you need to do is call into Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Mark Levin, or Glenn Beck, and just mention me or the title of one of my books. Essentially plug me or my books or some of my YouTube videos on the air. If it gets on the air, then I will send you a free book. So the details, go to markdice.com and scroll down underneath the book for the Illuminati Facts and Fiction. There's a link that says get a free copy. And it gives you all the instructions, how to get past the call screeners, the shows, the times, the phone numbers, all that stuff. You don't need to record your call. All you need to do is email me when you're successful with the name of the show.
Hold on. We're going to finish this up. But how many times have you been on all these shows?
Oh, man. I stopped counting. I mean, I haven't been doing it much lately. It just takes so long. I have a hard time getting past those call screeners now, no matter what name I use. I think some of them have learned my name. But you can listen to most of my calls on YouTube or go to markdice.com. I mean, I think Sean Hannity's got to be, probably 10 or 15 times I've
Just the mere mention of your name makes him poop his pants.
Oh, yeah, any of these guys. So if you're able to do this and work it in, and I kind of explain a couple samples and examples on how to do this, if you just do that, I'll get the podcast, I'll find the call, and we'll post it on YouTube if it's good, and then I'll send you a free copy. And this will be going indefinitely or until, maybe the 100. I might just keep going I think that people need to tape these, or how do they prove you monitor it? How do they prove that they made it in? They email me, mark@markdice.com, tell me which show you called in and which day, preferably which hour, or the first or the second or the third hour, and then I will find the podcast, and I'll go through, find the call, or maybe I'll actually send you that hour. You can fast forward and figure it out, tell me which minute it was. So I can verify that made it on the air, and then you just, I'll send you a free copy. You don't pay shipping and handling, none of that stuff. You get the book for free. And then if you read the little article I wrote on markdice.com, again, just scroll down to the get a free copy link, and I tell you how to bypass the screeners, how to the most successful way.
How do you get in? How do you get into all these shows? You've got all that info.
Because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to sit there and call, and it's just going to be busy for 30 minutes. You're going to sit there and read out. You're going to get fed up and hang up. So I'll tell you my secret. You want to put George
Norrie on that list? Does he count? I mean, if you get a plug on George, why aren't you on George Norrie once a month?
I don't know. I've emailed the producers over there a couple different times, and nobody's ever gotten back with me. I was on there
That's what happened to me. Yeah.
I was on there once a couple years ago talking about the Guidestones, but I really want to come on and talk about the Illuminati, and when Angels and Demons came out, I wanted to talk about the disinformation from that, but nobody ever got a hold of me. So I don't have access, I don't think, to their podcast. But if you want to do that and send me the podcast, if you
prove that you got on one of these shows, you got to plug out for the Illuminati Facts and Fiction or Mark Dice, markdice.com, theresistancemanifesto.com, and you get a free book. I mean, that's worth waiting to get on the air for to do. And speaking of shameless plugs, where's my book?
Email me the address and I'll get you something.
All right, man. I want an autographed copy. I just got a new copy of Tex Mars' new book. Have you seen that?
I did too. I got it yesterday. It's fantastic.
I didn't ask for it. He just sent it to me. A giant book called Conspiracy World, and it's kind of a little bit like what you're doing here, and Tex will be on with us next week talking about it.
I was shocked. I came home last night, and I got my mail, and I'm like, hey, this is great. So, yeah, I'll send you some stuff. I got my new one out, too, the New World Order, Facts and Fiction. I'll get
Dude,
to you.
we're almost out of time, but one of the things you put up here, again, markdice.com, theresistancemanifesto.com, you can find out about this contest, 100 free copies of the book. You got to get in here before the 100 copies go away, but he said he might continue it if you get into one of these shows and get a plug out for him and frame it the right way. Start talking about an issue. He'll tell you this as he tells you how to talk to these people, and then all of a sudden drop the Jack Blood or Mark Dice on them. Do it.
Yeah, it's fully detailed there in the article on how to do it. You got to give the screener a fake comment about the paradigm that they're going to fit into, and then as soon as you're on the air, you just talk about something, and just by having to mention, oh, hey, by the way, Sean Hannity, did you see Mark Dice's video of the petition to sign inflation? That's all you got to do.
Dice, brother, we're almost out of time. This is a day where I definitely wish I had a second hour here, but we don't. So we're going to have to wrap this up in about 30 seconds. We've been seeing nothing but news coming out of the federal government, the Obama government. Cass Sunstein, they're going to infiltrate 9/11 truth groups. We already heard from Wade Madsen. They've been doing this for years under George Soros, and not just 9/11 truth groups, but all kinds of groups. We get disinformation coming from people like Bill Schneebelen, or as he's often referred to, Sorcha Fall. We are in the middle of a hurricane of disinformation. How do we protect ourselves, and how do we go forward and get our freedoms back?
Well, that's why I wrote the Illuminati Facts and Fiction. Maybe I'll come on again. We can talk about John Todd, Bill Schneebelen, some of these other guys, Phil Schneider, some of these frauds, and we can help everybody determine what's fact and what's fiction.
Anytime, my brother. Anytime, man. You got to come out to Texas and take our spare room for a couple of days and speak to the people out here as well. MarkDice.com, theresistancemanifesto.com. I'm Jack Blood. We've got huge shows coming up for you next week. Stay tuned. Tell people. Get out and tell people about AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Some of the best hours in radio right here. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. Appreciate it, man.
Hi, brother.
Have a good weekend. Spend time with your family. Go out and fight the New World Order and win. Stay bold, America, and mighty forces will come to your aid.